A warm welcome to our Wesley Impact Highlight series as we take a look at some of our viewer favourites. This next story is about someone that works behind the scenes at Wesley Mission. As part of National Carers Week in Australia, we met up with Wesley Mission's Executive Manager for Home and Carer Support Services, Susan Cann. A carer herself, her own life experience brings a wealth of knowledge and compassion to her role. Susan, welcome to the programme.
Thank you, Keith. It's great to be here.
Look, tell us a bit about the role that you actually have.
Yeah, I have a role managing about 300 staff across Sydney, Newcastle and the Central Coast. We have 38 contracts to provide services, community services, and our clients are aged persons, frail aged people, people with disabilities, dementia, and those with chronic and mental illness, and of course the people who care for them.
Susan, when you talk about a package, do you mean a kind of a bundle of different services?
A bundle of different services.
So what might a person actually have a need for that we actually meet?
We support people to stay at home. So we want that person to be able to live the life they want to live in their own home. And then we provide those services. So they might look like shopping, cooking, cleaning, transportation, socialisation, all the things that you need when you get frail.
Yeah, so in a sense this is actually the right kind of service for today, because we know that's going to have to be the way forward, because we can't keep building places for people to go. And it's also more caring, isn't it, in a way?
And it is what people want. People love their homes. They've been in them a very long time and they want to stay there.
So tell us what a typical day might be.
Typical day for one of our carers. They start early because our clients like to be up early and have their personal care needs attended to. They usually see about 8 people a day, and they do some of those tasks that I mentioned. And sometimes they're the only person that the client sees, the only person who comes into their home. And sometimes our carers are thanked and they're appreciated, but sometimes they can never do anything right. But our carers always turn up with a smile, and they make a really big difference in the lives of the people they visit. And
we've all read and seen in the media, haven't we, those pictures of people being, well, there's no other way of saying it, abused really almost by the way people care for them. It's so important that as a Christian agency we avoid that kind of thing.
Yes, yes. And we're always looking at a model where we're enabling people, where we're not saying to them it's a deficit model. You know, if they'd like to still vacuum, we encourage them to vacuum. If they want to cook their little meals that they like, we encourage them to do that. We don't come in and take over their lives.
Now, this is Carers Week in Australia. How important do you think it is to ask for help?
I think people need to know what's available so that they can access support services, so that they can maintain, a carer can maintain a quality in their own life. You can't care for another person when your own life is very stressful. Caring is very demanding. You don't have a normal life when you're a carer. There's no spontaneity in your life. We have a carer who every hour, 24/7, gives her husband medication. And when you commit to a regime like that, there's not much you can do around that every hour. So we really encourage carers to know what we can provide for them to make their lives better.
And we'll come back in a moment to learn a little bit more about Susan herself. But the truth is there are many organisations in Wesley Mission and far beyond Wesley Mission who are offering this kind of care. Sancha Prowse is our performer. She shares, no matter what circumstance, God is our hope, our rock. So here's Sancha with Precious Lord.
Precious Lord, take my hand, lead me on, help me stand. I am tired, I am weak, I am worn. Through the storm, through the night, lead precious Lord, and lead me home. Precious Lord, you're the one that I build my life on. You're my rock, you're my hope, you are my song. You've picked me up, made me strong when my way precious Lord, now lead me home. When my way grows dreary, precious Lord, linger near. When my life is almost gone, hear my cry, hear my call. Take my hand, let's dive on. Take my hand, precious Lord, and lead me home. Take my hand, precious Lord, and lead me home. Oh yeah.
Keith Garner's new book, A Word for the World, is now available. Dealing with the 4 themes of success, sorrow, society and spirituality, the 16 sermons in this book will definitely inspire and challenge you as you read. The book also includes a DVD featuring interviews with Nick Farr-Jones, Lee Hatcher, Tanya Plibersek and Margaret Somerville. For more information on A Word for the World, please contact us on 9263 5555 or at impacttv@wesleymission.org.au.
Now, if you'd like to know more about my friend Sancha and her music, details are going to be online all this week. We're welcoming back Susan Cann, one of our Wesley Mission staff. You're passionate about encouraging and helping other people. Previously, you worked really in education and programmes manager within a state jail. Did that help to give you a vision of what this kind of thing can do to people? Encouragement and...
Yes. Yes, it does. Recidivism in New South Wales in correctional centres sits around 42%. So nearly half of all people that have been to jail go back. So it really tells us a story of what we have to do in terms of educating, giving inmates an opportunity to improve themselves for when they come out. And I ran a program in Junee called Habitat for Humanity, which I know they're friends of Wesley. Habitat for Humanity Junee Prison Build, where the inmates were enrolled in TAFE New South Wales. They did a Certificate 2 in Building and Construction, and they built the Habitat houses, and then we took them out of the jail. The most profound thing out of that, one day an inmate said to me, "Thank you for changing my life. I will never commit another crime because I've given something back and you've believed in me." So those sort of messages when you're working in a very hard environment are very encouraging.
And you talked about empowering before in relation to the caring we've been.
Yes.
That's probably one of the things that happens there, that a prisoner gets empowered in what they're doing to actually have a skill that was just not there before.
Yeah, and it really makes a difference.
So how did that follow through in the way that you see? Is it the same principles when you're working with a team of staff, when you're caring for people?
I actually think it's quite simple. I think it's listening to people and showing that you care. That particular inmate, for example, said, "No one in my life has ever cared about me before." How profound is that, that you could be 23 years old and make a statement that someone who was working with you actually cared about
And
you.
it's the 2 ears, 1 mouth principle as well, isn't it?
Yes, I think it is.
Tell me what you enjoy most about your life at Wesley Mission. We have staff on from time to time, and I'm always want them to answer that question because it's an important one.
It is. I love leading my team. They're committed, professional community services workers, and they are passionate about their clients. They will go to the nth degree for their clients. But the thing I love most about working for Wesley Mission, it's my 40th year of working, so I can certainly compare. So I've worked in government organisations, non-faith-based organisations, and I just love working somewhere where my life values and the organisation actually meet. And I feel very blessed to be working in that environment.
And that's so important to us. It's that part of that word and deed understanding that we have. Look, one of your favourite books is The Road Less Travelled, and it's been a book that helped a lot of people. Tell us a little bit about that and your faith in Christ.
Yeah, The Road Less Travelled I first read 25 years ago, so it's a very worn book in my bookshelf. It's written by M. Scott Peck. The very first line is, "Life is difficult, full stop." And so over the years I've learnt to actually accept that my life will be difficult, that there will be difficult circumstances, relationships, and in a way I've then transcended it. I don't expect it to be easy anymore, so therefore it's not so difficult. And I read the book a lot to remind me of that.
And I'm always wary, and people who are regularly tune in will know, I'm always wary of that Christianity that is a success-orientated thing, that all's going to be well. Believe in Jesus Christ and no problems are ever going to happen again. Just not true,
life
is it?
is hard.
Yeah, and I'm just thrilled that not that you talk about having an enjoyment in your team and what gives you satisfaction. It gives me satisfaction to know that people like yourself, Susan, are part of the team and bring to it a passion and a significance and an importance and your own experience. So thank you for the privilege of talking to you and coming on the show here on Wesley Impact. I'll be back in just a moment.
It's been 200 years since the first Methodists met in Australia. To celebrate 2 centuries of faith and pioneering care, CEO and presenter Reverend Dr. Keith Garner takes us back to where it all began.
But we don't begin here at the heart of London. We begin in a town in the north of England.
In this fascinating narrative, Reverend Garner chronicles the history of the life and times of the founder of Methodism, John Wesley. This fresh and thought-provoking documentary takes us on a journey throughout the United Kingdom, beginning in John Wesley's hometown of Epworth.
John Wesley was born here on the 17th of June, 1703.
This 1-hour DVD travels onto his education years and beginnings of social justice in Oxford, to his final years in London. For more information on John Wesley, the man and his mission, call 02 9263 5555 or email us at impacttv@wesleymission.org.au.
My guest on the show, Susan Cann, oversees up to 300 Wesley Mission staff, and they in turn support over 1,300 clients across Sydney and beyond. Let's take a look together at just one family we support through our out-of-home care programme. This is part 1 of Stuart and Alison's story. Part 2 continues next week.
Got married in November 2005, Kangaroo Valley Golf Course. Finny was born in 16th of December the following year.
I remember when Finn was born, we felt like we'd won the lottery, and to us he was perfect, you know. And then as he was developing, he wasn't developing quite typically.
He's got very poor
Gross motor skills. He's very unsteady on his feet. He has seizures. He has sort of moderate developmental delay. And we were told, me being 7 months pregnant with Maxwell, that there was a probability that it may happen again. We tried to remain positive that lightning wouldn't strike us again, but it struck, and it struck harder than what we could have ever imagined. Maxie did in fact have the same condition as what Finn has, plus he was diagnosed with iliocardial syndrome. It's always full on. From the moment we wake up sort of at 5:30, 4:45, It's full on till the time we go to bed, which is, you know, I don't know,
10,
10, 11,
10:30, 11,
and then we'll get woken up, you know, at 2 and 4, and yeah, sleep deprivation's a big thing. We started out, you know, Mr. and Mrs. Average, and now, you know, average is what we aspire to be. You know, if we could just be have an average day or a normal day, that would be our dream. It's okay. I get very jealous of Stu going to work. I think, geez, I'd love to just be able to jump in the car and go to work. It would be 1,000 times easier because, you know, you deal with a screaming child for a few hours on end, you're going to go a bit crazy. I remember it very clearly, actually. We were in hospital and the social worker at the hospital said, how do you think you're going to go home and cope? And I went, I don't know. I don't even know how I'm going to get through the next hour, you know, with 2 special needs children with such high needs. I said, you know, I don't know. And she said, well, there is help out there, Ali, you know. They put in a referral to Wesley for us. And then Wesley came to the house and they sort of told us everything that they could do. And I said, oh, I really don't know if we're really that badly done by. And she looked at me and she said, look at you, she said, nobody else I know needs this as much as you. And I'd hate to think what she was looking at because I probably hadn't slept for a number of weeks. And I think she was probably looking at a train wreck and said, well, let's just give it a go. And I said, okay.
I'm in my series looking at lesser-known Bible characters. So let me begin that journey by reading to you from 1 Kings chapter 14 and verse 6. So when Ahijah heard the sound of her footsteps at the door, he said, come in, wife of Jeroboam. Why this pretense? I've been sent to you with bad news. Go tell Jeroboam that this is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. I raised you up from among the people and appointed you ruler of my people Israel. I tore the kingdom away from the house of David and gave it to you. But you've not been like my servant David, who kept all my commands and followed me with all his heart, doing only that which was right in his eyes. Before, you've done more evil than all who've lived before you. You've made for yourself other gods, idols made of metal. You've roused my anger and turned your anger back on me. Now, Ahijah's the person I want to introduce you to first. Something very significant about this prophet. He was blind. And when a person is blind, often their other sensory perceptions are heightened. And so sound was very, very important to him. Jeroboam sent his wife to see the prophet who'd been very helpful before, but sent her in disguise. Now, this disguise is clearly for other people's sake. So the news that she receives, which is not good, she can at least disguise herself as she takes that news away. Disguises are always very dubious and doubtful, and the news we receive in life is not always good. I thought that was a very interesting point that came out of that conversation with Susan just a few moments ago. Not all life is good. Not all life is beautiful and everything just falls into place. It can be difficult, as the book that she referred to made it clear. God's purposes always alert us to our own shortcomings. Life can cave in and be a real disaster for us, and sometimes we cannot seek to ask God to save us from difficult days simply because of who we are and where we are. And Jeroboam and his wife only turned to the prophet when it suited them. Now, there are some people like that, who only have friends when they need something from them, who only seek help when, in fact, they're really at the end of themselves, when, in fact, when it seems smoother, they don't have contact, they don't really engage. Charles Spurgeon calls such people occasional hearers. He used to preach very regularly to a huge congregation of thousands of people at the heart of London. And he said within that crowd, he had many people who were always occasional hearers, coming along just to overhear a truth, something that was there. Fred Craddock used to talk about overhearing the gospel. Let's be sure we're not occasional, but regular attenders to God's presence and love. There are times in our lives when we need to be ready to listen. And just like the one who went in disguise, don't go in disguise. Be ready to hear. Be ready to hear whatever it is that God has to say to you. And so many people are like that. And here we have in Jeroboam's wife, somebody who's not always talked about, doesn't appear in many books. When people talk about biblical characters, they may not refer to her. But the reason why I draw your attention to her as one of those people in the Bible that we know very little about is that she gives us this lesson, that this is not the way to go. Don't go in disguise. Don't go as somebody who's just momentarily, just accidentally, just overhearing the truth, but be ready to hear it. Tune, as it were, your inner spiritual antennae to hear whatever it is you need to hear from God. Be ready to attend to his word. Be ready to attend to his truth. Be ready to do whatever you need to do. And when we think of this particular week of Carers Week, and we think of people who give their lives to caring for others, give their lives to ensuring that they care for their own family, admittedly and importantly with support by people like from Wesley Mission, let's remember such people. And let's say to ourselves, we want to tune in and to be the kind of people who attend to the issues that are there in our own lives and don't just allow them to go by. And where we don't have to creep, as it were, up the back steps to hear whatever it is that we believe God has to say to us. And that's true in terms of listening to God's word. It's true in terms of responding to God's word through Christian worship too. So many churches have within them at any time people who are doing exactly this, occasionally appearing, occasionally tuning in. Make sure you're not one of those people. Make sure that you're a regular attender to God's word and a regular person ready to hear whatever it is he has to say to you. And if you are the kind of person who is regularly attending to God's word, then there really is the opportunity to discover his presence and love, and in doing so, find a meaningful life and a way forward. So Jeroboam's wife crept in. But she didn't need to do that. She came in disguise. She shouldn't have done that. Something important comes out of learning from her story. God bless you, and be a persistent listener.
If you would like to know more about today's topic or for more on Keith's message, contact Keith by writing to Wesley Mission, Post Office Box A5555, Sydney South 1235, or email impacttv@wesleymission.org.au.
Many thanks for watching. It's been very helpful to hear Susan's story again, how her previous life lessons have equipped her to fill her current role at Wesley Mission with empathy and compassion. Next week, we look at our final Best of Series programme for 2013, as we look at the work of spreading the gospel through Sat7 in the Middle East. We leave you with Greg Atwell singing, I Need You Every Hour. Until next week, goodbye and God bless you.
Tender voice like thine can